the Lion King. There once lived a man in a terrible and fearful land called the Land of Delight. While the land was filled with many pleasures, it was void of true joy, peace, and fulfillment. Still, this did not bother most of the people who lived vainly from one pleasure to the next. Nevertheless, every once in a while something would spark an interest in the deeper things of life. Perhaps death, disease, difficulty, or simply an emptiness within. Whatever the case, some were inspired to seek a better land, that is, a distant country. It was said that such a country did exist, in which lived a great Lion King. At times, some would make their way towards that country, though no one had ever actually seen it, and many were skeptical of it, questioning if it even existed. Still, some seemed quite convinced of its existence. One day, this man, whose name was Seeker, was walking by the ocean, pondering the deeper issues of life. He had spent years filling himself with the pleasures of the land, but felt that something in life was missing. As he grew more restless, he found himself pondering deeper issues more frequently. Why was he alive? Was there any meaning to life? Was there anything after this life? He longed for something more fulfilling than the passing pleasures of the land. Now, as he pondered these thoughts, a great and violent roaring noise shook the earth where he stood. As he looked in the direction that the noise had come from, he was startled to see a three-headed lion approaching him. Too frightened to move, he simply stood still, waiting for what he suspected to be his inevitable death. To his dismay, the lion approached Seeker and began to speak, asking, "What is it you seek?" Seeker was astonished, for the lion had 3 heads, and each opened its mouth at once, but as they spoke, their voices were in such unison that it sounded like one. Finally, after shaking off his shock, Seeker answered, "My life is full of pleasure, but I find no peace in this land. I seek peace and purpose." At this, the lion held out its great and massive paw and placed in Seeker's hand a scroll. The animal then said, "I have broken the seal of this scroll at the price of my blood for you." Amazed at his words, Seeker then graciously accepted the free gift and opened the scroll, asking, "What is it?" "It's an invitation to the distant country. In it you will find landmarks that point to future points along the path. This will strengthen your faith along the way," said the 3-headed lion. Seeker was amazed. Surely it couldn't really be what he thought it was. Many people in the Land of Delight mocked the idea of this distant, beautiful land where the Lion King dwelt, claiming there was no evidence of such a land or such a king. But Seeker's eyes were now opened, and he looked at the lion and asked, "Are you the Lion King?" "You say rightly that I am," he said. "But what shall I do with this?" he asked. "Present the invitation at the gate, and you will be admitted into the land," said the Lion King. "But why am I invited when all the others of the land have no invitation?" he asked. "Anyone who wants may be invited," he replied. "Then why are so few heading towards that path?" "Because their vision has been clouded by things of this life, and they love death." "What do you mean, they love death?" "Haven't you heard? The land of pleasures is doomed to destruction. The blood of that land cries out, and it will one day receive retribution. But first the people must be warned," said he. "Then indeed they do love death, and I was, and still am, one of them," said Seeker, falling down and crying. "What shall I do to escape the wrath to come?" "Flee this land," said the Lion King. But where shall I go?" "Follow the light," said he, pointing toward a path that led to a distant light. Then, with a loud roar that shook the earth, causing Seeker to tremble, the great and mighty king of beasts turned and left. Now Seeker's heart was filled with awe and wonder. Hope again stirred within him. A joy unlike the shallow happiness that he had obtained from the passing pleasures of the land of delight filled his soul, and he at once turned towards the light and quickly put his best foot forward, preparing for a great journey. But no sooner had he begun to walk than a man approached him, inquiring, "Where are you heading in such haste?" "Towards the light. I have been invited by the great Lion King to go to the distant land," said Seeker. At once the man burst out in laughter, so hysterical that a small crowd began to form as the man said, "You fool! There is no such Lion King." "Certainly there is, for I have seen the Lion King myself. I have experienced him. He has spoken to me, and I heard his voice," said Seeker. Again the man laughed as others in the crowd joined in. Seeker turned to the crowd and said, "The land is going to be destroyed with fire. The Lion King himself told me you must flee at once, all of you." One in the crowd called out, saying, "What has that to do with me? I don't believe in the Lion King." Seeker replied, "It doesn't matter if you believe or not. His existence does not depend on your belief." "I can prove he doesn't exist," replied another, who called into the air, "O Lion King, if you exist, then come devour me at once." When nothing happened, the man turned to Seeker and said, "Proof, no Lion King. The question, my friend, is what is it that we can do to convince you that you have fallen for a lie?" Seeker simply turned to the crowd and replied, "If I had not experienced the Lion King for myself, perhaps you could do something. But I have seen the Lion King. The reason you don't believe is not because he does not exist, but because you have not seen what I have seen." Again the crowd began to laugh and mock him to scorn, but Seeker simply ignored their words. There had been a time in the past when he too was like they. Before he had met the Lion King for himself, he did not know what to believe. He too thought the tales of a distant beautiful land with a Lion King were fictional fairy tales. But his eyes were opened by the Lion King himself, and now nothing anyone said could change his mind. Once he had seen the king